Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I am Leilani, and today I'm going to be giving you another inmate-driven episode. This is of Erick Jordan. He's currently incarcerated in Washington State, and I thought for this episode you might want to listen to him instead of my voice, and so the bulk of this episode is going to be him speaking. I will interject at times to clarify or give additional information, but most of it's going to come from him, and I thoroughly hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did speaking to him.
Yeah. Okay, so how does it work? How do it?
So really we just talk about you and kind of your life, and I can ask questions along the way, but we start out with, when you were born, what your childhood was like, things like that.
Okay, so yeah, I'm ready to fire up when you're ready.
All right, well, let's start with when were you born?
Okay, I was born in Athens, Texas in 1975. My mother's name is Brenda Lowe. Well, at the time her name was Brenda Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's name is James Tatum.
Okay.
I was born in, my mom was a single parent pretty much up until, actually my mom and dad was together until I was like maybe 4 years old, if I remember right, my mom said. And then we kind of lived with my grandmother for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We also stayed with my mom's sister for a minute. And then me and my dad and my mom stayed together for a while. And then, I had a normal childhood,
Yeah.
My dad worked. My mom worked. My mom always worked. I've never known her not to have a job,
Mm-hmm.
And then, go ahead.
Any siblings?
I didn't get siblings until I was probably like 10 years old.
Oh, you got to be the only child for a while.
Yeah, I did. I was the only child for a while.
All right, this is one of those few interjections. So as we were talking, we ask about siblings and joke about how he got to be the only child for a while. He does go on to clarify that later he does have one younger sister from his mom and her husband, and then he ends up with two other siblings from his dad and the eventual wife of his dad. And he remains in contact with his younger sister, LaToya, on his dad's side at this time.
And so, other than that, it's just everything to me, as a kid, you really don't know nothing but what's going on. It's normal, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Did you spend your whole
And so,
childhood in Texas?
No, I did not. My dad actually left for a while, and then he was gone for like maybe 4 or 5 years. Nobody knew where he was. So then he came back when I was like 8 years old. And then I moved to Seattle, Washington with him. That's how I ended up here in Washington.
Oh, okay. Okay. And what was it like growing up in Seattle?
Growing up in Seattle, it was cool because this is what would happen. I would come to Seattle from at the end of the school year over here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would stay here with my dad for 3 months.
Oh.
From since I was 8 years old until I was 18. Mm-hmm. No, I moved back to Seattle when I was 20. So during that time, I would just come here 3 months back and forth from Texas. My dad would fly me from Texas here, and then I would go back to my mom and go to school. And then at 16, I think it was, I ended up getting in some trouble in Texas. So that's how my in and out of the system started at when I was around like 16, 17, somewhere around there.
Yeah. When you were going to school, what kind of kid were you? Like, were you a kid that was always into sports? Were you a nerd?
I was a kid that was always into sports. I played all the sports. You know what I'm saying? The only sport I didn't play in school was baseball. But I ran track. I played all the other sports, that they offer.
Yeah.
And I was a normal kid, I had friends. I hung out. Did the normal kid stuff, skip school. You know what I'm saying? I went to all the like school dances and homecoming. You know, I did the normal high school all the way up into 11th grade. I did normal school stuff. You know.
Yeah. And then you said you had a run-in with the law around 16. What happened? Like, what changed?
What changed is me. I kind of like picked up on the negative behavior being around in Seattle with my dad. You know what I'm saying? Because my dad really wasn't like the type of dad that he really didn't school me when it comes to like wrong and right. Like he just kind of just let me go. You know what I'm saying? He would talk to me, but not really discipline me. You know what I'm saying? And shit, stuff like that. So he would let me hang out. I would just run around and just be like in the city. You know what I'm saying? Hanging out with guys that was like either from my apartment building or guys that I ran around like I run into in like the city parks and stuff like that. You know. And I became known because of my dad in Seattle. Because we know my dad was he was like the weed man. So he had a reputation, like a lot of people knew him. So I just became like his shadow, you know, like everywhere I would go, that's little Smurf, that's Smurf son. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of like gravitated towards like his lifestyle, you know? So that's how I ended up like that. But then, you know, doing the normal, like when I was in Texas, well, actually one summer, we was hanging out at a nightclub actually, and we ended up getting into with a bunch of older guys that was probably like 4 or 5 years older than me, you know. So we're at a nightclub, we're hanging out, get into a confrontation with a guy, and it ended up escalating into we got into it with him twice. First time we just get into it, we leave, and then like a couple weeks later we go back to a different nightclub. And the guy that was actually getting into the altercation, which was my friend at the time, they ended up getting into a fight. And the guy ended up trying to run to his car to get a gun. And I actually had a gun on me, so I started shooting. Ended up hitting the guy and killing him. So that sent me to the Texas Youth Commission from 17 till I was 20.
Okay. And out of curiosity, why were you carrying a gun at the time?
I was carrying a gun at the time because just being a knucklehead, young kid, hanging out in the streets, and just trying to be accepted by older guys. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, like the lifestyle in Texas is a little bit more slower than it was out in Washington. So a lot of my behavior I picked up from the streets of Washington, but when I went back to Texas, I kind of carried that lifestyle with me. You know, because in Texas, in Washington, you know, they had gangs and just the cliques and stuff like that. So the guys I was hanging around with was like into that. Even though I never got in a gang, I hung around with a lot of gang members, you feel what I'm saying? And guys that was associated with that. So I kind of took that lifestyle back to Texas. So it kind of made me being up here and going back there with that type of lifestyle, it made the older guys want me around, you feel what I'm saying? So that's kind of like where I got it from.
Okay. And so you got sentenced.
No third-party calls are allowed.
So you got
Say it again.
You got sentenced at 16. So from 16 to 20, you were in the system. Kind of talk to me about that.
Well, during that time, you know, I was they sent me to Texas Youth Commission. They gave me they actually sentenced me till I was age 21 so I had basically a juvenile sentence. And then, you know, during that time, I kind of, I still was able to, because it was like a stay home and school, so I was able to play sports. I played football. They had a softball team. I played on the softball team. And I schooled, you know, and I actually got along pretty well up in there. You know, I didn't have very many problems. You know, everybody got along with me. I did, you know, as a kid, you know, in those type of places, I did get into a couple fights. But for the most part, I got along with the staff. You know what I'm saying? My dad would come down from Seattle, come visit me. My mom would visit me regularly. I actually, I had a girl that used to come, like, she actually did the whole time with me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She did all the time I was there. And then once I got like 3 years into that, they sent me to San Antonio, Texas, to a halfway house. So I was supposed to be at that halfway house until I was 21. You know, so I was there for about, I think maybe 6 to 8 months or something. I think about 8 months I stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my 20s at that time. And then I ended up getting into like this altercation. We was playing basketball in the full court in the back of the building. And then this guy ended up getting into an altercation. We ended up getting into a fight. And so we thought we got away with it, but they actually seen it on the camera. So they came and snatched us up, put us on house restriction, and they wanted to send me back to Texas Youth Commission.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of me allowing them to send me back from Texas Youth Commission, I actually just ended up leaving the place and coming to Seattle where my dad was.
This is another point that I'm going to interject. Him and I have a conversation about him absconding from Texas and going up to Seattle. And I asked him later on in our conversation, whose idea was it? Did his dad know if he was coming? And he says that it was 100% his idea to leave the state of Texas, and that originally his father actually asked him to go back to Texas to finish his sentence. However, he does not do this. And then his father goes ahead and takes care of him while he's in Seattle.
You know?
I'm gonna rewind for a second, and then I have another question.
Go ahead.
So you said that you went to school while you were in the Texas Youth Authority, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that
Yes,
mean
ma'am.
that you graduated or you got a GED?
I ended up getting a GED.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you left the halfway house, was that like, did you get they call it interstate compounded, or did you just leave the system when you weren't supposed to?
I just left the system when I wasn't supposed to.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any repercussions from that?
Yes, they came to see how they looked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, but so I only had to hide out for like 6 months, because once you're 21 in Texas, your juvenile things is automatically sealed.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So once I turned 21, that whole war and everything just was squashed, because they considered me an adult at the time.
Really? I did not know that.
Yes, ma'am. That's how it worked.
All right.
Yeah. So they did come to Seattle and look for me, but I was living at the house, and they only knew my dad's apartment address, because at the time my dad had an apartment and a house. So I was at my dad's house, and they went to the apartment and looked for me. And they actually, my dad was at the apartment one day when they all showed up and stuff. So they came in, they were searching the apartment, and they actually found a picture of me with some guys from Texas Youth Commission, where I had ran a track and we won first place in relay. So they seen the picture of me on the wall. They actually took the picture and said, well, we know this is the right spot. My dad was telling me about it. They was like, they actually picked up that picture of you on the wall, and they actually seen the picture and picked it up and said, yeah, that's him. We're definitely in the right spot. So where is he at?
Oh, all right. So after that 6 months, and now you're kind of, free from that situation, what did you do after that?
After that, I actually started working. I'm stationed in Seattle. I'm not going back to Texas no more at this time now.
Yeah.
So now I'm in Seattle. Oh, excuse me. Let me back up a little bit. Because when I was at the halfway house, I was able to get furloughs. So the young lady that did the time with me while I was in Texas Youth Commission,
mm-hmm.
I ended up getting her pregnant while I was at the halfway house.
Okay.
And so now she's pregnant, and then she's in Texas, but I'm in Seattle. So she ends up having my son, and then me and her, we still communicate and stuff. So I advise her, since I'm going to be in Seattle, this is where my home's going to be, you should basically pack up with my son and come to Seattle where I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so she agreed to it. So she came to Seattle with me when my son was born and lived at my stepmom and my dad's house. And so during this time, I started working.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going to get this job at the Bishop Warehouse at night, working from 7 to 11 at night. From 11 at night to 7 in the morning, excuse me.
Oh.
And then I started progressing, just work. I worked there for about a year and a half, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started getting back into the street stuff again. I started back hustling and going to a lot of clubs, like strip clubs and stuff, Because I had this thing inside my head to make myself believe that I wanted to live the lifestyle of a pimp. So I started going into that arena. Started going to a lot of strip clubs, meeting females, different things like that. Basically taking advantage of women. I hate to say it, but it's true. So that's the lifestyle I started progressing towards,
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it created a problem with the relationship that I call myself being in with her, the lady that moved to Seattle with me with my son,
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
And because she's working, she's a great person. She's never done nothing but work and provided. And me, I started taking on this false image, and it rubbed her the wrong way. She's a woman. She's not gonna go for that.
Yeah.
And so then she decided she held in her for a couple of years, and then finally she just decided, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna be with you and have you with other females. So I'm gonna pack it up, and she went home.
Mm-hmm. When she left, did you have any custody of your son, or did he just kind of, was that it from there?
No, my son, what happened is, my son stayed here in Washington with me for a while. And then, it's like they used my son as a token, like my son would come stay with my dad. He stayed with my dad for a long time. He stayed with my dad, my stepmom, for 5 years straight. And then he went back to Texas and lived with my mom in Texas, because my mom was still in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of stayed between my dad and my mom. And then I think she ended up taking him when he was probably 12 years old. And he went and stayed with his mom fully. But when he was from a baby to about 12, he was back and forth between my mom and my dad,
Mm-hmm.
Between Texas and Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm. And when
Yeah.
And when she left, did that kind of give you any wake up call, or you just kind of dive deeper into the world that you were going towards?
No, I just kept rolling. I kept being out there, every day. You know what I'm saying? Then I started peddling drugs. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're out there, well, for me, I can't speak for everybody. For me, my thing was this: I always tried to do everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's what my biggest downfall was. 1 minute I'm selling weed, 1 minute I'm selling cocaine, 1 minute I'm trying to sell women. You know what I'm saying? 1 minute you're out, you're stealing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's I'm just trying to do everything, but really I'm not getting nowhere doing none of them. But it's like a offense cycle that you get caught up in that you don't realize it. Because during the day, what you do, you hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Then at night, you end up going out to the club, blowing all your money. Because you're drinking, you're smoking weed, you're hanging out with the fellas. And then you wake up this morning, you have to do the same thing over again.
Mm-hmm.
And you look up, 10, 12 years went by, and you be caught up in that cycle, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And not even realize that you look up, you're 30-some years old, and you haven't accomplished nothing. Then you look up, you're 20, 30-some years old, you locked up, you got 20, 30 years, and you still haven't accomplished nothing. And then you end up in one of these phone call conversations like I'm in right now, you feel me? With still nothing accomplished.
Yeah.
It's just the truth,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it was,
Yeah. So from before, what got you incarcerated now. Did you have any other run-ins with the law other than when you were a youth, like up in Seattle? Did you start to have any issues?
Yes, ma'am. My first time I get into it, trouble in Seattle, I ended up getting into a domestic dispute. I ended up getting a new young lady. So, and then, like, to understand a little bit about the lifestyle I was in, like I said before, I got into, like, thinking that inside my mind, I wanted to be a pimp. Mm-hmm. So I started targeting females that was already into the lifestyle, like the strip club lifestyle, or already escort and stuff like that. So I ended up meeting this young lady at the strip club, and so we ended up having a relationship. She's living her lifestyle, and she's catering to me, giving me money, and it's like, it's a confusing lifestyle, because one minute you want her doing the things you want her to do to bring money, to get money to you, and then when you're young, like I was one time in juvenile, you've never been in love. So once I fell in love with the lady, now I don't want her doing it, but she wants to continue on. Mm-hmm. So now it becomes like, it started making me jealous, and different things like that caused me to have rage. So I will lash out. Sometimes I will grab her, sometimes I will slap her, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So my first run-in with the law was because of that, you know what I'm saying, domestic violence, Mm-hmm. And then after that, it progressed, like we stayed. So we meet in 96, somewhere around there, 96. And it, you know what I'm saying, so around probably like 97 is when these type of things started taking place. Mm-hmm. And then it died down. So we ended up coming to an agreement that she was gonna quit the lifestyle. I was gonna go to work, and we were just gonna try to live a normal life. You know what I'm saying? And then I think she ended up getting pregnant around 99. I mean, it was 99. Yeah, 99, because my son was born in 2000. So my son by her was born in 2000. And we were hashing it out. So we had no contact towards I go to jail. We, you know what I'm saying, in and out relationships, back and forth, but we were trying to make it work. And that's like my first run in. And then once I realized that the things that the relationship wasn't working, I went back to the streets and started hustling again. I started back selling crack. You know what I'm saying? Then this is probably my second run in with this might be my third run in with the law. I ended up catching a drug case, which was a vodka. And then, you're in and out, domestic still going on, so I probably caught 5 or 6 of them violation of contact orders in and out of the county jail. And then my first time to this place where I'm at now, which is the penitentiary, I ended up coming up here for like, I think it was 13 months for violation of a protection order. Mm-hmm. And then I get out again. We start over. I get out. I end up getting a clean slate, getting off probation, everything. And then it started up again, the domestic stuff, because we're still in a relationship. We go back and forth. And those things is like, that's my biggest thing with that. So my relationship, when it's bad, it used to push me back to the streets more and more and more. Every time I get into an altercation at home, I just go out and stay out all night, party, kick it, do the usual, Mm-hmm. Yeah. And drinking, smoking, drugging. I'm not sure if you know how I go, but that's how I was going,
Yeah. And so how long did that kind of cycle go for you?
That cycle went for me for about 2003.
Okay. And what happened in 2002?
2002. Yeah, 2002.
So what happened in 2002 to either change it for the good or the bad?
It got worse, because 2002, I think I ended up getting in trouble, catching my second case for the penitentiary, which carried me, I don't know if it was 23 or 33. I can't remember exactly how many months I did. Mm-hmm. But I ended up catching kitchen. I know so much I can't remember some of that stuff. But I think I ended up catching was it another violation? I think it was technical violation of no protection order with her. But I had a bunch of cases, you know, I ended up catching them. It was a robbery too, domestic violence, all type of things like that. So they ended up giving me, so they stacked it on me. They stacked it on me, so I ended up catching, like, I think it was 32 months or something like that. So I had to come back up to the joint again. And then I did those 32 months. I ended up getting out. You know, time don't went by, so I gotta kind of remember some of this stuff. So I think, I don't know if I got a 2023 or 24 or something like that. Maybe it was 01 and I got out 2023. That's what it was. I got out. Y'all came in 01, got out 2023. I mean 2003, excuse me, 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was. I came in 01 and got out 2003. That was my second time.
Yeah. So now we're in 2003. When you get out, do you go straight back to what you were doing before, or you try to, go back to working and making a living?
Yeah, when I got out, I ended up going back to work.
Yeah.
I went to go work at, was it? Yeah, I ended up going back to work, and I was working at Abilene Appliances, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere like that.
And did you have any contact?
No, hold up. No, I wasn't. I went in 2003. No, I didn't go back to work. I actually went straight back to doing what I was. No, I was working. Yes, I was. I was working at the Wack Hotel downtown for a minute.
Yeah.
I was working at the Wack Hotel downtown, and I was living. I had an apartment on Capitol Hill at the time. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And did you have contact with your son at that time?
Yes, ma'am. No, yeah, I was back having contact with her, and then we actually went out one night together, and I was driving back to my spot, and get pulled over with her in the car, and then that situation happened.
Wow. Okay. So you were driving back with her in the car when you got pulled over?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then did you want to talk about the situation?
Our situation was still with the restraining order and stuff like that, so they ended up violating me for that. They ended up giving me a violation for that.
Yeah. So can she not just cancel the restraining order?
Say it again?
Could she not just cancel the restraining order?
Yes. At that time, I think they wanted me to do those classes. That's what it was.
Okay. Okay. And so did you do the classes?
I started them, but I never finished them, to be honest.
Oh my God, of course. All right, so keep going forward in time. What happens after that?
Okay, so and then I ended up going back. When I got out, before I got out, I guess she had started another relationship like that, and then she was trying to have a baby and all that stuff, and so I told her, I was like, I don't want to be dealing with nobody else's situation and their kid when I come to see my son, so even if we're not in a relationship, we can still have another kid, I'm going to do much as I can for the kid like I always do for my son. And so she agreed. So we ended up having my second son. Well, I ended up having my third son with her, which is my baby boy. He just turned 18. And we live separately. You know what I'm saying? She lived where she lived, I live where I live, and then we end up mingling and doing our thing. So we decided to try to do the family thing again. And then so we ended up moving back in together. I had actually moved into her place, and then it was working for a while. I was working at Abilene Appliance. That's when I was working at Abilene. But the whole time she was pregnant with my son, she couldn't work. So I guess because of the fact that the baby was in, it was so thin.
Mm-hmm.
So they told her, they actually put her on bed rest like her third month. And so I just basically locked down and had to work and pull extra hours, basically take care of everything during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, it was actually good. All right, I'm here.
All right. So you were talking about your girl being pregnant and being on bed rest.
Right. Okay, she was on bed rest, and did everything. Once my son was born, she actually decided to go back to work. Mm-hmm. And then she started allowing my dad and my stepmom to babysit the kid while she was working, but we had already agreed that I would take him when I'm not working, I would take him, and then she would go to work. But she went against the grain and decided that my stepmom and my dad started taking him. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them to, I wanted to try to be a better dad with him the whole way through,
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of made put us in a bad position. So we ended up getting into it, all type of stuff. And I stopped coming around,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just started staying in my own place again. And it got kind of bad, because I was arguing with her over the phone and making threats, doing all type of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, it don't feel good talking about it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So I have to share it,
Yeah.
But, and then, we ended up having our situation, and it kind of in my mind, I'm not going to say that's what drove me back to the streets, but it didn't help me not want to go back to the streets, I would say,
Sure.
So I ended up going back out, started back hustling, hanging out, doing the normal teenage shit at 31, which I shouldn't have been doing. At 31 years old, you're never supposed to be in no club with that responsibility at home. So I started back doing teenage shit again, acting out, being out there in the streets. And then this situation came up while I was out there, during the process. Because, like I said before, so it's just a continuation of it all, to the fact that you just get trapped in,
Mm-hmm.
So I fell back into it again. Hanging out, like I said, smoking, drinking, drugging.
Yeah. And so what?
And then the situation, like I said, came up where I'm hanging at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm hanging with, he ends up, I don't know what transpired inside the club, because I had went outside when he was talking to somebody, but the guy that I was with, I was looking through the window, I seen him standing up, talking to a guy. They was having words, so that's when it made me go inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy he was having words with knew me. He says to me, "Man, you need to tell your homeboy how we do it around here." I was like, "Man, I don't know how you do it. What are you talking about?" He's like, some. Then my guy was like, "Man, those guys." He's like, "Fuck those guys." I was like, "No, don't talk like that. I know him."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's kind of drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Man, do you have a problem with this guy? Do you want to fight him?" He's like, "No." So when he said that, I was like, "Look, y'all, just give him a pass. Let me take him out of here, take him home, because he's been drinking a little too much." So as we was leaving, how things just escalated. They followed us outside, and then it escalated to the point to where they ended up stocking him. And then he fell to the ground, but when he fell to the ground, he grabbed me and I went down with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when we was on the ground, somebody, because it's a crowd of people out here now, you gotta remember it's a big crowd. Well, because there was maybe 10 to 25 people, 15 to 25 people in the street at the time, so it's like a circle of people.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went down to the ground, somebody actually fired into the crowd, fired 2 shots. And so, but when he was down, I seen all the blood, At the time, I didn't know this stuff. I thought somebody had shot me. So what I did, I whipped out my gun and shot the guy next to me. I was like, man, why did y'all do that? Why did y'all shoot you, man? And so I shot one of their homeboys. You know what I'm saying? Then I grabbed him up off the ground and was trying to run to the car with him.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up just throwing him in the weeds, and I keep running. You know what I'm saying? And then, but the whole time, I didn't know he wasn't shot at the time. But what had happened when he got shot, they split his eye open. Mm-hmm. So all the blood from his eye was on his shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made me think he was hit in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I ended up getting arrested that night because I tried to hide, and they ended up finding me. But when I was in the county, I was trying to figure out, because you try to replay things in your mind once the alcohol and all the drugs were off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm laying there trying to think about what happened. So I'm trying to figure out who shot into the crowd. But the whole time, the guy that I was talking to, asking for the pass from him to get him out of there, is the guy that shot into the crowd.
Oh,
and I know him, so I'm like, man, what was it? So, and then the dude that I ended up hitting, I did grow up with him. He's been coming to my dad now since forever, buying weed from my dad, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And me and him we were like the same in age. Yeah. So I kind of feel bad about that, because he's not like an enemy, you feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But he is the homeboy of the guys who was getting into it with, you feel me?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel that kind of made me feel bad. That's kind of like when I'm like, man, I started thinking about it, like, damn, I hit, his name is 6 foot Mo. So I ended up hitting 6 foot Mo. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that kind of made me start to think about how the streets work. Ain't no loyalty, ain't none of that stuff out there no more. You know what I'm saying? People don't respect boundaries,
Yeah.
So with that situation, it kind of started to make me look at things from a different scope,
Mm-hmm. And so you got arrested that night. How long were you in jail before trial?
How long was I in jail before what?
Trial. Or did you take a plea? I didn't look it up.
I stayed there for 19 months. Yeah. I went to trial.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
How long did the trial last?
Probably about 2 weeks to 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Not very long, I don't feel like. I don't know. Nobody ever hears about the trial part, so I'm always curious how that goes.
Yeah, okay, so the trial, they went because I ended up having a paid attorney, but I asked him early on, because since they shot first, I was trying to get a lesser included or self-defense. Mm-hmm. So he said he would take it to trial because he felt like he could get a better sentence. Mm-hmm. So that's why I stayed in the county so long. But to do a trial, they offered me 18 to 21 years. So I'm like, man, I've been sitting in the county for 19 months for this babe trying to get a lesser included. Mm-hmm. And so I asked her, so at trial, I asked the attorney, the prosecutor, look, if you give me 15 years flat today, I'll take it, because I don't feel like what I've done, I need to just walk out of here and not pay for taking someone's life, because it's only right,
Yeah.
And so she was like, nah, I have to give you 18 to 21. I can give you that. I was like, well, since I'm already geared up for trial, let's just go to trial. And then my attorney will try to give me a lesser time,
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came time for trial, we actually go through the whole process. And then when it came for my turn to go up on the thing, he didn't want me to go, because I would have went up there. I don't care about my crime, my past history. We're not here to talk about that. If you bring it up, I answer that too.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you what happened that night. It's really what led up to me being in the situation I'm in right now.
Sure.
Because people those jurors, they don't get a chance to really see or hear what transpired up to the point of what made me react the way I reacted,
Mm-hmm.
And that was the part I felt like nobody could tell that but me, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
And so my attorney, he's like, no, because the prosecutor going to eat you up on your past criminal history. I'm like, man, I don't care about that. So by him being an attorney, I just listened to him, you know?
Yeah.
So once sentencing came, they ended up giving me 37 years. Now, mind you, now listen, I also got a violation of protection order with my son's mom that came up too. About a while back that they filed. Once they filed it, and I guess it was stuck in limbo or something, so they ended up bringing that up on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I pled out to that too.
Okay.
At sentencing, well, like a couple weeks later at a different sentencing.
Yeah.
So I ended up, but since I already had so much time for the murder, they just basically run it off in turn, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I know,
so
on your, what I can find from your paperwork so far, it says, right, so you got charged with, or convicted of second-degree murder. And
yes,
it says with a firearm. Is that considered, so in Oregon, it's like either aggravated or like not, there's aggravating factors. Would that be considered an aggravating factor? I just thought it was weird that they put with a firearm.
No, ma'am.
No.
They don't, it's not with aggravated. No.
Oh. Okay. Sometimes the way that they label things, I was like, I don't know why they're labeling that. But I only know certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, they be tripping with it.
Yeah. And so how long have you been down so far right now?
Right now I've been down 18 years.
18.
It'll be 18 years in July, actually.
July. And
yep.
How has the time been since you've been in?
The time has been it's been easy, you know what I'm saying? Because it's been like, what I mean by easy, it's like it's been easy for me because I don't have to deal with like the gang situations, the having to be accepted by people, you know what I'm saying? So one thing I have to do in here right now is just work on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm pretty much known about all the people that's like associated with like the lifestyle that we grew up in, and like people respect me and I respect them. So I don't have a hard time. All thing I have to do is focus on my old way, my old personality.
Mm-hmm. So
if I focus on that while I'm doing my time, then I'm focusing on me and not what's going on around me. So I like that I've taken these 18 years to really redefine myself, really become a man, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that I got it together.
That's good. Does your family come visit you?
They will, but I don't like to visit because I don't like stripping out when you come back. I don't like taking my clothes off. So I just do the video visit.
Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to think what other questions I have.
Oh yeah, I'll just say that I feel like I maintain a good relationship with all three of my sons the whole time I've been down.
That's good.
You know,
Yeah.
I've worked, sent money, provided school clothes, toys. You know,
All right, and here I ask him what he means by being able to provide, what kind of jobs that he did. And he talks about working in the kitchen, he worked in the dining room, he had a job in the share shop, and he was a unit porter for a time. All of those pay, pretty penny on the dollar an hour for inmates, but he used all of that money to send back home to family.
That's what my focus has been pretty much, is having a good relationship with them, you know. They all respect me. And then that's my greatest accomplishment during time, you know. The moms, she still get along with me. Matter of fact, we just talked this morning.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just gotta prove to myself once I'm on the other side. 'Cause it's like everybody knows, it's easy in here.
Yeah.
This time it's easy to make yourself believe that you got something together, but is the deciding factor once you're out.
Yeah.
You know, and
no longer
yes, you already know.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I done seen it all and done it all. When it comes to that lifestyle and that nightlife, mm-hmm. There was nothing I haven't pretty much seen or done. The only thing I haven't done, I haven't never touched raped a woman. I've never touched a child. I've never seen nothing that I've seen nothing that I wanted from someone that I feel like I can't accomplish myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't feel like I don't have a reputation of being like a thief or stealing from like robbing or stuff like that. I don't have that type of reputation. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I feel like I still got good qualities even when I return to society. That when somebody see me, I'll be like, "Oh, this guy, he's a good person." When it comes to like business, like my business reputation is not scored at all. You know? Mm-hmm. Like, cause I've never had to like go and get drugs from people and run off with it. Sure. Everything I've done, I put my own money up front first. You feel me? Mm-hmm. So those are things that, and I'm still geared around like that business mindset. Like a couple years ago, I started a t-shirt business in here, you know, and then the guy I was working with, he ran off. But he didn't run off before I got my money back, you know. So I was like, okay, it's a learning experience, you know, but I still got that under my belt, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
And you know, so that's where I'm at, you know. And I got good people that since I've been in here, like my guy that just got out a few years ago, you know, me and him, we still cool. You know, he's out doing this thing. He's got like a transitional house down there in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. You know, he just bought his first house. He was just showing me yesterday on video visit. And so I got a good relationship with people that I've met in here that sees even qualities in me just doing time that I've never met. Mm-hmm. Like this guy I've never met. You know, he got out and we still maintain a good relationship. You know, he's been out going on 3.5 years and we still got a relationship to this day, you know?
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. It's not bad. And it's like, and you know what makes me feel good? Even in the streets, like Tahuti, I met him in the streets, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But our relationship, I guess, is something about me that he sees, that he sees a quality in me that makes him, like when he see me, it's like his energy lets me know he likes me, that he got love for me, genuine love, you know what I'm saying? Not like for no robbing or killing or street shit, or he just sees me as a person that it just makes me feel good when he see me, you know?
Yeah.
And I know it's genuine, you know? For him to not be gone so long, and then for him to think of just like, reach out to this guy right here.
Yeah.
That lets me know that meant a lot to me, you know?
That's good. I'll let him know you said that.
For sure. I appreciate it.
One of my favorite things about talking with Erick at the end of the day is that he's so down to earth with everything that he says. He talks about things pretty openly and he doesn't blame other people for the entire situation. He talks about his role in things, which is pretty abnormal. A lot of people that are incarcerated tend to say it's the world against them. And in this case, Erick talks about how, he's part of the world and what he does and what his role is in things. And I appreciated that. I also love that he calls everything the situation. No matter what it is, it's the situation of things. And it makes me laugh every single time that he starts talking about something new. I love that he, again, is easygoing and that he jokes about having to strip out after visiting family. And so he does video calls rather than in-person calls. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed listening to him as much as I did having all the phone calls with him. And to all those out there listening, be careful. It really is a dangerous world we live in.